Good morning, everyone. All right, we're recording, we're live. Hey, John.
How you doing? Hey, Paul. Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Fitzgerald from Film Festival Mastery, joined here by Paul June. Did I get that? Did I get the point right?
Got me. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming. Just a quick note, once the webinar ends, you will still be able to hang out and network with the other attendees. So don't worry that we took you away from the tables.
Yeah, we'll be back. You'll get a taste. All right, so it's a few minutes after 11, and then they'll just be able to catch up wherever we are. And again, we are recording this, so we'll share the recorded version. So let's jump in. So as the festival landscape continues to shift, we all know it's become increasingly important to integrate virtual offerings. Festivals can learn to adapt and achieve great success. They can increase revenues, ticket sales, and audience engagement. So we're going to cover all these bases with you today. And before we jump in, just a little bit of housekeeping. As an overview of what we're going to cover, Paul's going to share some keys about festival success with this evolving landscape, and of course, how Filmocracy can help. We're going to make some special announcements that we know you're going to appreciate. And of course, we're going to have a Q&A to take some of your questions. So Paul's going to also share some discount opportunities. Very grateful for you taking your time today. And I think you're going to be happy to know that you can actually save some money on some of these amazing services. So stay tuned for that. All right, enough of my yakking. Paul, take it away.
Just a quick note, there's a message in the chat. Is there closed caption? Unfortunately, we did not have that prepared for today, so but you will have this recording for later viewing. Okay, so today we're just going to scratch the surface and share what we see as 3 keys to success, all integrated on our Filmocracy platform. And some of the things that we're going to talk about is how virtual conferencing with custom maps and floor plans can support interactive virtual conferences. And don't let me forget to share my screen.
Yeah, you have some slides, yeah?
Yes, there we go. There it is. Okay. So we're going to talk about how you can merge the virtual with the physical, so you're not producing 2 separate events. And we'll talk about how to produce unique live digital experiences. And of course, we'll sprinkle in a few other creative nuggets in there for you. So first up is virtual conferencing. I'm sure over the past year, all of you have experienced an abundance of virtual platforms, some cool, some less so, some stable, some great. And while we also utilize various virtual conference platforms, our preferred option is the one you're using right now. And so Remo allows us to create beautiful custom floor plans that work for any purposes you need. You can do red carpets, they can be useful for trivia, competition events. You know, we even did a medical conference doing some live ACL surgeries just 2 weeks ago. So the potential is great, and it's really only limited by your flexibility and effort. Um, and so this is the cafe example. We'd use this normally just so people can meet and chat, or you could have a private yacht just for your filmmakers. And so with so many digital options, it's important for festivals to have their own style and branding. Everyone is kind of fatigued with Zoom, and giving them a little more color, a little more style, a little more, branding can really do a lot to keep people more engaged. Um, and on top of that, there's plenty of spots you can put sponsors. And this is obviously very important to festivals. And this is on top of putting banners in your festival village map that we create for you, in pre-roll ads, or even putting merchandise in our shop. You know, there's a lot of different ways that we can tackle creating a nice package for the sponsors, and even something like this, where you have an exhibit hall for your sponsors to interact directly with attendees. You know, they can talk face to face and discuss whatever the sponsors want to talk about, just like a trade show. So it really comes down to what kind of sponsorship package you can create that's appealing during a time when it's become really difficult to get fiscal sponsorship. And so here at Filmocracy, we are developing programs to help many of our own festivals reach sponsors that they wouldn't normally be able to attract. And it all comes down to data. During a physical event, you can only track so much activity like number of tickets and passes sold. Sometimes people will try to count the number of people that walk by the theater. You can have that in your analytics. But online, we can do much better. We can track the number of minutes movies are viewed, the movie completion rates, time spent in each event, number of clicks on banners. And sometimes, we even create things like Google Forms that people have to fill out in order to win prizes that engage with sponsors even further. So these are the types of things that will give you the data that you need to help sell sponsors on higher packages. So
Another thought there, Paul, just to add on the data packages is that when we're working with ticketing solutions, we can track the regions, and in some cases even get more information out of the consumers that can become really helpful for festivals and for filmmakers, for the festivals that are providing data to filmmakers.
yeah, and I see there are some questions being put in the chat. We will get to those, but we ask that you use the Q&A function on the side. So if you click over there to the Q&A tab, it will organize things a little bit better for us. So let's talk about secure screenings. Many festivals on the simpler end used Vimeo or even YouTube to host screenings. Vimeo is a good option, but unfortunately doesn't have that much potential for branding and customization. And going with a provider can allow much more flexibility, like changing the theater background, the structure and layout of the films. You can change the background of the video player itself. And of course, what's even more important is DRM. And there are a few major providers like Widevine and PlayReady, but in function, they're just an expensive option. There's actually, over a dozen smaller providers of DRM that are less expensive, but produce the same and oftentimes better levels of security because since the big DRM players have that brand recognition and they're used very widely, they're more often the target of hackers. So you can actually Google, how to crack Widevine DRM, and then you'll find a bunch of forum posts of people working on it and trying to beat Google at their game. And it's definitely possible. We see Mulan, released on pirated streaming sites like a day after that it comes out. So, you know, if you try Googling how to crack Filmocracy DRM, you'll get no search results. And so sometimes being smaller is better. Um, and so as we recover from the pandemic, we're seeing theaters opening up with limited capacity and festivals returning to physical events. And while many festivals are planning to create some kind of hybrid event to get the best of both worlds and reach wider audiences, no one has really cracked the code for how you merge these two groups. It's just kind of like having two separate things. I'm going to have my physical event in the theater. I have to do stuff for them. And then I have this virtual event and I have to figure out how I do stuff for them without creating so much extra work for myself. And so at Filmocracy, we have a few solutions we're currently beta testing. And it looks something like this. Oh, we skipped that slide. Okay, so here, um, the white boxes represent a normal panel or Q&A that takes place in a physical theater. Nothing new here. But by adding a few tools, we can harness the valuable content that's being produced in this live theater and merge it with the virtual. So projectors and projector screens from the proper channel can actually cost less than $200. And by combining both the physical and virtual experience into one event, where virtual attendees can ask questions to physical panelists in front of a live audience, then we can create a truly compelling hybrid experience for all guests. And so we only really have time to show you one of our hybrid features, but we have a lot that we're currently testing. Another one that we're working on is a multi-webcam setup that switches between different webcams A lot of streamers do this on their own, but it's a very elaborate setup of like cameras all around you. And so we're trying to develop something that has multiple webcams integrated into one port that you can just plug into a laptop, and then it can point at different places with different zoom functionalities and things like that. So I think getting into this type of thinking of how do you make this experience more interesting for the people who are at home on their computers is really important. And yes, Paige, this will be recorded. Finally, my favorite subject, creating live experiences. This is possibly the most important piece of the puzzle because it's the thing that will separate you from other festivals. Obviously, the films that you program are, the meat and potatoes, but at the same time, so many industries went virtual at the same time that you really need to give a little bit more. Like, what sets you apart? What's kind of interesting or unique about the event that you're putting together? And so I prepared a few different examples of what you could do. And the first is a virtual red carpet. Oh, this is what the projection system would look like. And so the first is a virtual red carpet. Some festivals opt for photo booths to allow attendees to take selfies using an app like virtualbooth.me. I'll actually type that into the chat because this is a very affordable option that I think people should take advantage of. Um, and so while this can work, it's not very dynamic because you're making attendees do something they already do much better on their own phones. And you're forcing them to use this program that really doesn't have that much functionality. I mean, Instagram blows virtualbooth.me out of the water. So instead, what you could do is you could have a virtual red carpet like this. You could have someone from your team act as the virtual photographer, and they can go from table to table and have the attendees pose for the picture. And what they do is they take a screenshot. They take a screenshot and superimpose it on a festival themed background, kind of like this. And this, in my opinion, is much better because it makes the attendees feel special, first of all, since their photo is being taken by a photographer. And the end product is much more shareable than a standard selfie. This is a lot more interesting than just a random selfie. Everybody takes selfies, so you got to add that branding to your event. Now let's talk about parties. And we all like to think that people enjoy partying in front of their computers. I think the truth is that the most we can expect out of virtual parties is connection. But there are ways to make it more interesting. Um, take this floor plan, for example. Here we have a dance layout with a live DJ. People are grouped in groups of 6 to 8. And then we have a DJ playing in the right billboard at the top. This is pretty standard. And what we can do to make it additionally interesting and dynamic is use a program called OBS Studio. And OBS Studio is a free broadcasting application, and we can use that to alternate between the DJ and different groups of people. So somebody from your team, again, instead of a photographer, they're jumping between the groups of people, and they can actually broadcast that group of people into the billboard on the top right. So it's kind of like a fan cam. This way you can go to the table, let everyone know they'll be shown on the billboard for 15, 30 seconds and should give their best mini dance performance. Most people obviously would never dance an entire duration of a virtual party or even a real party, for example, but almost everyone can muster 15 seconds. So it adds a little bit of energy and something a bit more interesting to the event. And
Paul, can I just throw out an idea about the happy hours real
sure.
quick, just in terms of live parties? One of the examples that we had at Filmocracy Fest, at event we put together in December of last year, was literally having a local brewery host a beer tasting, and he distributed beer throughout the community, and ultimately came on in presentation mode, as Paul and I were earlier, where you could see him talking about the different beers, pouring, drinking, and then getting feedback from the community. And again, before and after the actual tasting, the people that were in the happy hour could go from table to table and network while they're having their beer or cocktail or whatever else. And we did one in the Bahamas, right, on that boat that you showed, where a bartender actually had told everybody in advance what the drink was going to be so they could make their own cocktail and learn how to make a new cocktail. It's just another interactive way to engage with the community. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Definitely. Happy hours are much more approachable online than a dance party. Okay, so our last feature of the day is game shows and trivia. And so we use these to create a lot more engagement with the attendees. So they're not just sitting in front of their computer and watching the entire festival. At least they can have some active participation. And so we have templates that are complete with sound and animations for classics like Jeopardy, for The Price is Right, which allow guests to compete for prizes and have the additional bonus of being a great way to highlight sponsors and their products. But of course, here at Filmocracy, we like kicking everything up a notch. So we use a tool, it's called Slides with Friends. And to demonstrate it, we'll be doing a brief demo now. So you can all take out your cell phones if you want to participate. I'm just going to exit out of this really quickly and switch to a different slide deck. Just a moment. All right, here we go. So anybody who wants to participate in this, you can take out your phone and you can actually use your camera to scan this QR code like I will demonstrate now. So I'm using my phone. I scan the QR code and it takes me to the Slides with Friends page. I can put in my name. I see Chris has already joined. You can pick an avatar, you can put your name. And so this is one of the ways that we can really get people engaged, interacting. So we'll just give it another 15 seconds for people who want to actually do this Harry Potter trivia. And we should have a price. So let's say, the top three people who score will get a year of Filmocracy Premium Festival Premium membership, which is actually quite valuable. So, all right, let's get started. I see people still trickling in. Okay, all right, we're going to go now. We're going, we're going. Okay. So a lot of these are actually already made. So if you're very lazy, you don't have to do anything. You can just pick something that already exists.
Yes.
But if you want to customize it, it's just
Yes.
as easy as changing the text and changing the questions that you have here. And so here we're going to do just one round of trivia questions. And it's all about like adding things like this, small things that make people actively try stuff, actively participate. So most people are happy. This is great. All right, first question. What does the spell Accio do? John, I know you're a huge Harry Potter fan, so try not to spoil the answers. But here are the different possibilities. We can all pretend we're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And you can see at the bottom that all of the answers are coming in. Looks like two people are still not answering, but that's okay. We're going to move on. We're moving on. What does the spell Oculus Reparo do? All right, Evelyn, I'm answering you in the chat. Expelliarmus. I think this is the most common one that everybody knows. Of course, it makes you float. So, it's things like this. You can have people actively participating, and you can even like couple some of these activities together. Like, I went question very fast. What does the spell Mimble Wimble do? So what you could do is obviously this version allows you to have hundreds of people participating in one trivia thing, and then you can make it so the winners of this can actually participate in Jeopardy, because Jeopardy can only support, I think, 4 people at a time. So if you want to like narrow it down so that people can only get into the Jeopardy function by doing this first trivia thing, then that's one way you can go about it. Next question is, what can the spell Opugno do? And I thought I knew Harry Potter, but I don't know these answers, so I'm probably not going to win my own prize. John, I hope you're participating. I hope you come up with
No, I don't want to feel like it's rigged.
it.
I
Well,
have a
there's
12-year-old son, so we've seen all of them about 100 times.
wow. Yeah, that's cheating. All right, this is the last question for this round, and then we'll give it a rest. What does furnunculus do? Furnunculus. Wow, we have some people in the chat who have never seen Harry Potter or read Harry Potter. That is just impressive. Here it's just asking another question to keep people engaged, like, which book is the best? Agree, disagree, strongly agree. Most people are undecided. That's cool. That is not what I expected, because that is definitely the best book. All right, answer summary slide. So then it goes through all of the answers. I'm just going to run through this quicker so the non-Harry Potter readers don't feel too bored. And we have all of the scores pop up like this. So this is great. Kate is amazing. Melina, Peggy, you guys are the top 3. Everybody who participated will get some Filmocracy premium subscription for a year. Congratulations. I've got something for that. Hold on.
I was waiting for the sound effect.
Yeah. So, that's just one other thing, right? It's about how can you keep people like moving, actually participating, thinking, and that can really go a long way to making things more interactive and more interesting for people. So I think we will end it there. I'm just going to stop sharing this.
Yeah, and I'll throw one more idea out there, Paul, that we had it at Filmocracy Fest, which was kind of fun. We came up with a handful of trivia questions. It wasn't quite as live and interactive, but for example, we had ours in Los Angeles, so we had an ocean facade as part of our map, and we put a shark in the water and asked, what was the name of the shark in Jaws, kind of behind the scenes. And we had a bunch of those, and it was really fun, and people answered the questions, and then we had some that were new questions each day that added up to a puzzle. So I think this interactivity is definitely something that film fans look forward to. So should we jump into the next stage here, Paul, or you want to talk more about?
No, I think let's move on.
All right, cool. All right, so just wanted to share a couple more ideas, and then we'll move into the Q&A. So Paul and I have been developing a unique summit, a festival summit, to try to bring together the key parties that are connected to film festivals. Obviously, we want festival programmers and executives and sponsorship managers, et cetera, to join us. We'll have workshops and panel discussions and networking and all of that happening. But in addition to kind of bringing festival people together, we wanted to bring filmmakers into the mix. So we're going to have a track that will focus on the inner workings of film festivals with workshops. We'll do the same thing for filmmakers. What are filmmakers trying to get out of film festivals? And then the third piece, obviously, is film fans. What do film fans want from film festivals in this new era? Obviously, a lot of people are dying to get back to theaters, but a lot of folks that can't make it to some of the bigger festivals are embracing the virtual technology. And we've seen a lot of festivals double their ticket sales with these virtual options. So we're going to cover all those bases. We're going to do this August 5th and 6th. Yes, we will have live elements, but it'll be mostly virtual and, of course, hosted by Filmocracy. And of course, for joining us today, we're going to make sure that you get a 50% discount on your festival passes. We'll be sending out some info to you shortly to let you capitalize on that discount. Passes are going to be $100 for the 2 days, but I can assure you $50 is a pretty good deal for all the information you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, festival education and support is important, but it's also important that it's not just 8 hours of talking heads. We're developing the summit to not only educate, but facilitate connections between the festival directors, filmmakers, and festival services who can take your event to the next level. And so, on top of that, anybody who has questions about Filmocracy and wants to learn more about how you might host your festival with us, if you schedule a demo with me, you don't actually have to have the meeting, but if you schedule with me by Friday the 14th, which is this Friday, we will grandfather you into our plan options, which will actually be increasing on the date of our summit. And to top it all off, we'll be providing $500 off of your final invoice for any hosting services we provide. So I'm going to drop my calendar link in the side chat, but we'll also email this out along with the recording and a post summary. So don't worry if you don't catch this in the chat. Okay, so how about now Q&A? If you
Yeah,
haven't put questions in the Q&A, go ahead and do that now and we'll get to them.
Yeah, and I know Paul had mentioned earlier for some of you that threw some questions in the chat area to move them over to the Q&A. I didn't see as many of them move over, so I'm going to start, Paul, with a question that was actually thrown into the chat, and then maybe you can jump in to the Q&A. So which ticketing solutions are preferred partners for Filmocracy?
So Filmocracy works most closely with Elevant. Elevant has been focused on film festivals for a long time, so we are very integrated with them. So if you set up passes or tickets on Elevant, it will automatically be processed in Filmocracy, so that will be seamless. But obviously, there's a lot of you who are already in relationships with other ticketing providers. Some of you like to use Eventbrite. And so we will work with anyone. It just might be a little bit more arduous for us to do that work because we'll have to actually go and maybe sometimes manually upload batches of tickets if we don't have a good system for your provider. Okay, so I will ask a question for John. Let's see. Could we not do a David Bowie quiz? Okay, so real question. Are we available as multi-language? I'm not sure if this question is about using this part of the platform for virtual conferencing or if we can support multiple languages for films, but I think I'll just go ahead and answer that because we can handle whatever type of SRT or VTT subtitle files, caption files for the films. But if you want multi-language captions for this virtual conferencing, that is not something we have at this time. However, we do have a captioning solution that we've come up with, basically utilizing a technology called Otter.ai, which is a transcription software. So if you want to have live transcription of any of your events, it is possible, and we can show you how to do it. So John, I'm sorry, I didn't do a question for you. So let me ask one. During trivia, is there a chat function for the participants or other ways for participants to interact? So I think that's more of a question for me too, again. So
That's
the
good. No.
trivia is a separate slideshow. So people will still be in this platform able to type chat and interact with each other. They're only answering their questions in the trivia with the phone. So, you can still chat as normal.
I see a question here from Joyce, and I just want to see if we can get a little more clarification. She says, "What is the process and pricing to hold a festival?" And I'm not sure, Joyce, if you're talking about the pricing in terms of cost to use Filmocracy to host a festival, or if it's a more specific question around a system of producing a festival and what that would cost, which is obviously a whole other webinar. So if you'd like, Joyce, if you're still with us, to maybe put a bit more of a specific question into the Q&A, we can certainly tackle that for you.
John, here's a good question for you. What about Eventive? A lot of people have already committed to Eventive, signed contracts with them, like them, don't like them. What's the deal?
Well, I think there's two important points there. I think first of all, Eventive was one of the early players, right, out of the gate, and so a lot of festivals went to them because they were the easiest solution. I think Eventive does provide some good services. I think their service is limited though. They don't cover as many bases as Filmocracy covers. And in fact, we've seen a number of festivals that were working with them after getting through their festival come over to work with us because we actually provide more data and more transparency and more services than they provide. And I think, Paul, you might know this better than I, but I think we're actually less expensive as well. So that's the first thing. The other thing that's kind of important to know, and we've just done this with a couple of festivals in the last 2 months, is if a festival is already working with Eventive, already has that contract booked, but they still want to use some of the Filmocracy services, we have worked with festivals that are working with Eventive. So there is a way to work with both in terms of a transition so that you get the best of both worlds, and hopefully we can provide more opportunities for you down the road. So I hope that covers that question, Paul. If I missed anything, obviously fill the gaps.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have a number of festivals that we've worked with that already use Eventive and wanted to keep using Eventive for the screening part. So that was fine. And then we just did everything else and integrated everything into the virtual villages that we create. So not a big deal. You can use some, all, or none of Eventive.
Yeah, the
Um,
virtual map is one of the key interactive components, as is the floor plan and the remo and the tables that we're about to send you back to, so you can kind of see how this works. But those are two pieces that they don't offer.
Chris has a question that says, when I go to filmocracy.com, I see options to sign up to watch festivals. Which is the link to learn about being a festival using the platform? And this is obviously confusing because Filmocracy has two sides to it, the consumer-facing side where people come to watch movies and festivals, and then this B2B side where we're helping the festivals run. So I put a link in the chat again. It's festival.filmocracy.com, and that is where all of the information about pricing and how it all works and that can be found. So you can just head over to festival.filmocracy.com. Okay, John, here's a question for you. What's your take on Film Freeway versus Elements?
Well, I think Film Freeway has been around longer and has more filmmakers applying. I think that they're doing the best they can. Obviously, last year was a really tough year for them. I wrote a couple blogs for them and was working with them closely as things kind of were put into a weird transitional state. But I think they're offering great service. I think that they're doing their best to incorporate some other partners like Movie Maker and the top lists, and they're offering opportunities for filmmakers to actually promote their films to festivals. I would say that's something that we're going to see more and more of. Like any other service provider, they need to continue to expand their offerings and stay current. And I'd like to see a little bit more uh, of kind of feedback and curation as part of the tool instead of just kind of being everything to everybody. I'd like to see more custom packages and curation, but right now they're the best game in town.
Yeah, we've been trying to integrate with Film Freeway because obviously a lot of film festivals receive the films through the platform, but it's just hard. They're so busy. They don't have a huge team. They just happen to suck up everything in a vacuum once Without a Box went out. Okay,
I will just
another.
add one more quick point to that could be helpful for some of the festivals listening here today is that because I have worn the festival director hat, I can say with experience that it does make a huge difference for a festival to buy one of those spotlight positions to generate awareness, because there are so many festivals now, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, depending on what month and who you ask. And a lot of the festivals, frankly, that says that they're in that count on Film Freeway have shut their doors, but there's still thousands. And so to get attention, to buy one of those spots where you're sharing a spotlight with another festival, or even you're one of four, any of those marketing opportunities will make a huge difference in your submissions.
Okay, here's a question. I will answer my own. Well, not my own question. This question is from Christina. Since you've been hosting festivals, what have you seen as the most effective way of getting people to come to the Q&A? Any ideas other than through social media? This is tough. Q&As are just spammed all over the internet now, and it's very hard to make people care about, first of all, a film they haven't seen. So that's priority number one. Make sure that they see the film. And I think the timing of it makes a big difference, whether it's going to be in the middle of the day or later in the evening. Um, but I think it's about proving your experience. If it's just going to be a Q&A, kind of like John and I are doing now, it's kind of, I mean, it's fine. This is how everybody does it, like a recorded Zoom call. So the question is like, how do you do something that's a little bit different, that looks a little bit different or like higher grade, and then show that to people as that's how it's going to be. So I think, if you can have like Twitch streamers do this really well, where they use OBS Studio and they can make like the whole experience of what's around you a lot more interesting and even interactive. So I think that's one way that you can have it. Using something like StreamYard is very nice because then you can have the questions pop up underneath as people are speaking. So that's another thing that people like. But yeah, I would say the main thing is to just try not to be exactly the same as everybody else, because there's just 12,000 festivals, right? And everybody's doing Q&As in the exact same way on Zoom. So any way that you can, make the experience feel a little bit more bright. Even like one thing that you'll learn if you go to sign up for any of these like sales programs online where they teach you how to make $1 million or things like that. These are professional public speakers. And one of the things that they do is they will constantly ask for feedback in the chat. So as the Q&A is happening, say like, let's just say I'm talking to John, John's the director, and I'm like, John, your film was really great, and I thought that the color grading was particularly excellent. If anybody else agrees with me about the color grade, just give me a thumbs up in the chat. It seems pretty simple and pretty, not that interesting. But when you start to see people like putting all the thumbs up in the chat and it just kind of like fills up, it makes people feel like they're doing this together as opposed to just watching something that's pre-recorded. So if you want to up your Q&A game, engage the audience, talk to them, ask them questions, and ask for their feedback as the Q&A is happening.
Yeah, we also used to do giveaways. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. Okay, Luigi, you asked the language question again. I feel like we answered this, but I'll say it again. Anybody can speak any language here, but transcription of those languages is not supported. But subtitle files for films and any other content can be just given to us as an SRT or VTT file to be stored on the platform. When can I talk to someone regarding hosting a festival? I put my link in the chat. I'll drop it again. So if you schedule a meeting with me, then we will grandfather you in to our pricing plans as well as give you a discount. John, you want to drop your calendar link in too? Some of you may want to talk to John instead, since he is more experienced than I am and is a former festival director of really big festivals like AFI. So some of you may prefer to talk to him.
All right, I'll dig mine up while you go into the next question.
Yeah. Is Filmocracy integrating any live elements or user interactivity for virtual film viewing during festivals? This is something we talk about a lot. Watch parties, for example. And most of the time, the filmmakers don't want this. Like we've talked to them about having like, can people clap during a movie? And then kind of like how it happened here when we were doing the trivia, like little things go up on the screen of people appreciating it, or even showing like the number of people that are in that particular live screening. But almost universally, the filmmakers don't want things like that. They just want people to only see their movie, no interruptions, nothing else. So it's something that we toy with a lot, and maybe it'll be available for some people who want it, because I think we'll still do it for like the rest of Filmocracy of people who are watching films on demand. But for the festivals in particular, filmmakers have universally said they do not want any interactivity during their film. Okay, so David is just writing a nice compliment. Luigi is asking the link to the festival page. I put that in the chat. Okay. With the many digital, this question is from Richard. With the many digital content services available like HBO, Hulu, Prime, and Netflix, what do you feel is the best interface for a film festival could have to show its product for viewers to choose? I mean, in my opinion, HBO, Hulu, Prime, Netflix all kind of look the same. We're all doing this, you know, rows of content that you can slide through. So on the plus side, people are used to this. People see that and they know immediately, okay, these are the films I can watch and I can drag and find more movies. So I think that's a good thing. But in terms of making it feel more branded to you, like I know I'm not trying to talk negative about Eventive, but like on Eventive, most of the film festivals on Eventive look similar because you're using their layout, which keeps things very clean. You have all the posters organized and you have your own like splash image info page. But we decided to go a different route because we wanted to make every festival feel really different. If I go to Sundance, it's a completely different experience than going to South by Southwest. So why would they look the same? So that's kind of what we feel is the festival themselves should be allowed to create their own interactive map. And I think some of you might not know what I'm talking about when I say this. So I'm going to pull something up really quickly. But when you work with Filmocracy, you can create your own map. This is important because you're going to put everything that you would normally use for people to get to where they need to go. So whether it is a theater or a virtual conferencing building or a Q&A building, whatever it is, people need to be able to get there. And instead of just having a bunch of links that go to different places, instead what we can do is we can have it like this. So you have like, this is for your red carpet. This is for the filmmakers to go. And here is where people socialize. And all of the theaters are up here. This obviously is kind of a busy map. I wouldn't recommend having this many buildings. But this is something that we did for AFM, where you have their two stages where they're virtual conferencing buildings. They had on-demand screenings here, and they had a networking building, and then the rest were just informational. But as you can see, by having your own look in your own place, it's a different feeling. It elicits a different experience for people because now I feel like I'm at this Alula Film Festival, and now I'm at the Moving Parts Film Festival, or now I'm at the Nova Film Festival. It's all about the experience and really the branding, because they're going to remember going to something like this. Whereas if you're a film festival and Eventive, I might not remember whether you were Festival A or Festival B, because I only really remember the different films, right? Um, Tammy made a great note in the chat saying she named one of their buildings to recognize the sponsor. It's also something that you can do. This New York City Drone Film Festival here did the same thing. They had the building names on the sides that were actually dedicated to each sponsor. Um, and that's something you can definitely sell. Same thing with this festival. Um, John, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah, why don't you read the question?
Okay. Let's see. Can you change your map layout each year?
Yeah, this is something that we've done for a number of festivals. Again, we've only been doing this for I don't know, Paul, what, a little over a year now. But yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of what makes festivals unique, other than the obvious of showing emerging talent and just giving film fans what they want, and discovery of new filmmakers, is creating unique experiences each year. And there's a reason why most festivals, especially top tier and second tier festivals, have a new theme each year. There's a new look and feel each year. So even if you have a certain region, we did Aspen this year, and obviously they kind of took advantage of their community and the mountains and the snow-capped mountains. There's things you can do each year to give a new look and feel, a new color scheme. So absolutely, we encourage that, to change it from year to year, not just the map, but also the floor plans.
Here's a question from Peggy. We were wondering if people from other countries would see tags, rooms, etc. in their language, similar to Google translating a web page. This is for international festivals. So there's a couple things we can do. It's not going to be as smooth of a translation experience as you're probably hoping for, but what we can do is we can make multiple versions of the map so that if people are from the US, they see the English language version, or if they're from your specific country, um, I'm just going to guess from your name, maybe Italian. Let's just say it's Italy. So we can have an Italian version of the map with all of the different, language stuff translated. So that's a more seamless experience, but they all connect to the same place. So the English language speakers and the Italians, they have different maps, but when they click on the same building on their respective maps, it goes into the same place and they can talk to each other, watch the same films, etc., etc. Here's a quick question. Is there a VOD function with Filmocracy for festivals? Absolutely. We do on-demand as well as live scheduled screenings. Scheduling things, there is an added charge because that does cost more to do. But the on-demand is something, we offer to everybody. Okay, the pricing tiers. Paige is asking, where can we find pricing tiers for these customized virtual graphics and rooms? If you're talking about the map, then you can either have your own graphic designer or somebody from your team do it. You can also go on Fiverr, and it'll cost anywhere between $35 to $75 to get one made. We don't do that. We'll just tell you what dimensions and format it should be. But if you want to customize a floor plan, that is something we can give you the instructions to do. Any graphic designer should be able to figure it out. But if they're not able to figure it out, we have about 40 different ones that are already available to use. And if you want us to customize one for you, we can do it. We charge $50 an hour, and it usually takes between 3 to 7 hours to customize a floor plan. So that takes care of that. Oh, here's a good question. John,
Yeah, I like this one.
David asks, what film festival do you think is providing the best user experience, even if not a Filmocracy client?
I'm going to put CPH docs in here because I think they're the ones that have actually generated the most buzz, and they've had some great panels, some great talks. Obviously, they've got great programming, and when we start talking about um, just the virtual experience and being able to interact and being able to kind of reach a broader audience, even if you can't get to that festival, by putting these talks online, hundreds and thousands of people have seen some of these talks that they did, and I think they just completely nailed it. They had great guests, great films, great talks, and so I would say, yeah, that's one of the top ones. I mean, there's a lot that are doing well. I mean, AFI did well, Sundance did well, mixed on South by, but everybody's selling a lot more tickets, so they're doing something right. So definitely look at those top 3 or 4.
One that people may not know about that I'll say is Nightstream. Nightstream is not normally its own festival. It's actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, a bunch of horror film festivals got together and decided, hey, let's all do it together instead of separately because this is kind of a freak year and, we don't want to do all of our own. So they made this experience called Nightstream. And basically, 6 horror film festivals all banded together. They brought all of their content together. They put all of their events together, and they became greater than the sum of their parts because this was like, you know, all of the great horror stuff combined, right? So there's no need to even consider any other horror film festival really because this night stream event became like the pandemic horror event of the year. So doing something like that, I think, was really creative and could actually serve a lot of festivals well, particularly if they have a very specific niche that they usually target, whether it's like, you know, action or horror or LGBTQ, whatever it is, like banding together can very often have some great results. There's some other questions here that are more general. So can we geo-block on the platform? Yes, we can geo-block to the country as well as geo-fence down to the state level or province level, depending on where you live. Is there a Roku, Apple TV, etc. app? Not currently, but Roku and Apple TV will be the first ones that we do, and we're planning to start building that either this summer or in Q3 of this year. Knifewing, awesome name. What program are you using to do this live cast? This program is called Remo. Remo is a virtual conferencing technology that has an integrated networking component and webinar component. And so that's what we are using now to talk. So I think that will do it. Um, Everybody will receive a follow-up email from us with the recording link as well as a meeting link and information from everything that we've discussed. So, you don't have to scroll up and try to copy all this information. Um,
Yeah,
for
and Paul, just maybe give people your email address because I'm not sure if they saw it in the Eventbrite outreach. And I'll give mine.
my email's in the chat. It's just paul@filmocracy.com. And Fernando is asking, can you share the recording with staff and colleagues? Of course, you can share this wherever you want. And yeah, like John and I are available to chat whenever, answer any other questions you have, and work with you to try to create something more engaging, more interesting as we move forward into a world where virtual events are expected. So you've got to, really blow people away to stand out.
Yeah, and you can find me at John, Jon, at filmocracy.com as well. And, again, as Paul said, we're both happy to talk. And if there's anything we can do, filmfestivalmastery.com might have some info for you as well. But we appreciate you all coming out today, taking an hour of your busy schedule to hear more about all the cool things that are going on here in the festival world and what Paul's creating at filmocracy.com. But yeah, let's sign off for now. Paul, any final thoughts?
No, but if anybody wants to hang out afterwards, I'll jump around from table to table to answer more questions. You can hang out and network. This is a great group of people who are all festival directors too, so you can share knowledge and we'll try to do more stuff like this more often. All right, that'll do it. Until next time, thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy the table chat. Thanks for reminding everybody. Yeah, once we go out of present mode, you're gonna be back at your table so you can bounce around and just, get to know people and know the software. Thanks again, Paul.